Hi everybody, Bobby Ogilvy, project manager and professional coach. Today's question: even if I don't have an idea for a startup, but I think I might like startups, or I've even been good at them in the past, should I work in a startup? Should I, maybe let's reframe the question: should I find a founder to work with or to co-found with? Um, so answer: yes. So this might play off of some of the previous videos, but again to this notion of, the one key person which kind of is needed in the startup is this visionary ideas person, right? Who wants to expand, who wants to try something new, but they're not really good at operating, right? So if you can be that person who is good at operating, and again, operating in this sense is a broad term, but it's someone who's good at executing, someone who can do something specific and tactical, someone who can help sell, someone who has, crunchy, management or sales or, product experience, right? It's an earthy quality. Those are all super useful in a startup. It can also, you might think of the dynamic too in terms of, they might have some okay ideas themselves, but they're really good at honing other people's ideas or honing existing stuff. So if you think of part of the startup then as, this visionary has this kind of raw, half-baked idea, and they need other people to hone it and implement it and work it into something better. There's a lot of people who are good at that, right? I would, in some sense, say a lot of businessy training, project management, operations, any kind of management or applied engineering experience tends to be focused towards that. How do you take this raw potential and hone it into something better, workable, a sustainable, workable process, an effective way to approach sales, a feasible product you can make, right? These are all kind of crunchy, applied, pragmatic perspectives, pragmatic skill sets, right? So yeah, there's lots of situations where that can totally work, and it could be outright that you are looking for a founder who could use your skills, or on the receptive end, you're shopping around and different founders might be looking for you. It could be that you're some kind of expert consultant person who is looking for a company to jump on board with, which might mean that it's almost like you kind of see it as like serial operations, right? And as opposed to like serial kind of founding a startup. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be your COO for 3 years, 5 years, whatever amount of time, right? I know people who've done that. Or your CFO, right? Think of we've probably all heard of lawyers or accountants with good skill sets, and they may even have money to bring too, right? And then it's like, oh yeah, this person would be awesome as as my CFO, right? That would be fantastic. I think that's part of this perspective here. Again, back to this notion of we need teams, we need different skill sets around us. It's also very important really as early as possible, that there is good pushback in terms of how that visionary makes decisions. And so best case scenario, that means that there's other people which have decision-making say. What you don't want to happen is for the visionary to have 51+% and for there to very quickly stop having question meetings, discussions around strategy or what's next or how to make something real and feasible, because it's like, oh, let's take it to a vote. Oh, 51% plus voting shares, I win. That doesn't build up your organization. That doesn't enhance your go-to-market strategy. That doesn't help your product. That just stops an argument, right? So that's why you may want to have these kinds of people. The good thing about these people as well is that often I find in startup hub situations, they're probably actually rare and more in demand, and they also tend to be kind of more late career and more experienced. So, sometimes they could actually very much be older than some of the other people. Like I've seen situations where 40, 50, even early 60s sort of people who might have a few decades of experience, they have jumped on board with some tech founder in their 20s, early 30s, right? But because they see a decent idea and they see enough potential for financing and moving this thing forward, and maybe other talent around them, they say, yeah, that's the horse worth betting on, right? Yeah. VCs in some sense are kind of like this. Now VCs in that sense probably have a less operational role. VC firms to a lesser extent, well, really out of protecting their own financial interests, are kind of like this because they've given you money, they want to see come to fruition, they want to see this big amazing exit or IPO or whatever, and yeah, so to some degree they want to they're gonna start having some input, some things they'd like to see in your business, and generally speaking, it's good or it's the right direction. I remember hearing about some research that basically correlated that VC financing, equity financing, and founder successionship. And so let's be specific what that term is. The founder is forced out. That those two are linked, right? And so from a kind of capacity perspective, remember what I mentioned before, different people have different strengths for different size organizations that fit best in certain size organizations. So it makes sense that the kind of visionary founder person who starts the organization and then the person that takes it from 50 to 500 people are different, right? And so once you realize that there are kind of skill sets and perspectives that naturally kind of make that so, naturally kind of create those strength areas and yet limit kind of areas or out of strength areas, you could see how at some point it's like, oh no, we need someone more like this, given this growth stage, given this shift, given this organizational change we're trying to create. Boom, we need different expertise, right? And VCs are generally better at spotting that. In that sense, it's often less of a power play and more like, how do I get this train rolling again? Or there's someone on top who has not just not been growing as fast as we want, but has really hit the wall. I'm thinking even here in the Atlantic region, right? Again, people have different strengths and weaknesses, and it's very different to have maybe an engineering background and be able to conceive what some technology or product or new kind of tech innovation could do versus developing a growing and sales organizations around selling that product, right? And so there could be firms which have many years now in the market which still some aren't selling at all, or some are selling far below what they should be because they still think they're in product engineering mode or they don't know how to get out of product engineering mode, right? Anyway, so those are kind of examples of, if you're a VC, you're going to say, hey, do we want someone that can build a sales organization? Oh, you're now opening, half a dozen more offices in, New Zealand and EMEA and North America. Oh, we want someone who's now experienced in international operations, right? Or whatever your, organizational change, organizational growth is. So I guess what I want to say to the founders who are hearing this, don't get freaked out. Think about what your strengths are and where you want to be, because what it probably means is if the organization needs to go through this change, you've probably been out of your strength area for a long time and not enjoying it so much. Now, there might be financial reasons why you want to ride this train out and wait for that big juicy exit, but you're not happy, and really you're not, in an outer sense, being that productive or effective. So why don't you find a new way where you can add value and step back and make that happen a bit easier. I mean, if nothing else, this might just be about stepping back and moving to another C-level or director type position so that you can do something else, add value in a new way. This could be about, there's situations too where, a successful acquisition does happen, but I think it's actually typical too that they'll have the current CEO stay on in some other capacity, not as the CEO, but at some other C-level or some other type role as part of that transition, or maybe a VP or something like that, because they have great organizational knowledge you want to bring to it. So you could think of it as like, can I help lead and shepherd this new change, or am I just helping make sure that, as the reins transfer over to someone new and a new way of doing things, that the ship doesn't, sink in the process. So hopefully you're bringing your best skills forth, and you know what your gap areas are, and you're not just clenching on for dear life trying to be a control freak as the financial and bad indicators, bad KPIs around you, or the sky is falling, right? Anyway, you can get through this. Back to the initial question: is it okay to join a startup even if you're looking for a co-founder? You don't have this bright idea yourself. Yes, in fact, I would say the organization really needs people like that if it's going to grow to its full capacity, because it can't just be dreamers and visionaries. It needs operators. It needs feasible, practical people to help it grow. In that sense, you're doing a great service. The role of being a COO or riding shotgun is very much, it's like you're trying to bring together heaven and earth, right? It is a real battle. But I'm sure you guys are up for it. You guys are amazing leaders, I'm sure, or you have that potential within you. I hope you guys learned something. I'm Robert Ogilvy, project manager and professional coach. I will talk to you guys again soon.